Je n'entends pas d'objection. L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
It was seen as a landmark moment in fighting global warming. The Paris Climate Accords set an international goal of limiting a rise in global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. But that was quickly dismissed as unattainable.
At the end of the century, the temperature in average around the world will increase by at least 3 degrees and maybe more. So there's no way we can achieve the goals that we set up in the Paris Agreement.
And for countries on the front lines of climate change, like Bangladesh, there was concern from the start that the Paris Accords wouldn't be enough.
Bangladesh desperately needed an agreement of some sort where the world converges into something meaningful. It's weak on implementation. There is mention of funding, but there is no mention who is going to pay this fund, when and how, who is going to receive it, when and how.
Now, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, says the international community has just 12 years to limit a climate change catastrophe.
Carbon dioxide emissions would need to decline substantially before 2030 to avoid warming of more than 1.5 degrees C in the middle of the 21st century, followed by large-scale carbon dioxide removal.
Their report says the difference between a 2 degrees Celsius rise in temperatures versus 1.5 is billions more people having access to water and halving losses of crops and plants. But carbon emissions would need to be cut globally by almost half in the next 12 years. In the past, the IPCC has been criticized as being too conservative in consolidating research from the global scientific community and publishing its assessments. Making its last report the most alarming to date.
Our report puts on the table a sum of knowledge, and this knowledge aims to enlighten choices and encourage actions.
But there are considerable obstacles to addressing the climate crisis, like getting the world's #2 polluter on board. Under the leadership of the Trump administration, the United States has withdrawn from the Paris Accords. President Donald Trump is skeptical of the claim that climate change is a man-made phenomenon caused by record levels of carbon dioxide pouring into the atmosphere, something broadly accepted by the scientific community.
There is something there, man-made or not. I mean, there's something there, and it's going to go, and it's going to go back and forth, but there is something there. But again, 50 years ago it was brutal. 1890s were brutal. You have different times.
According to the World Wildlife Fund, more than half of all sea life has died off in the last 40 years, in part because of rising acidity and lower oxygen levels in the oceans. And the need for relief from natural disasters, widely believed to have intensified because of climate change, is at an all-time high.
That in the 70s, we used to be dealing with 80 to 100 severe weather-related shocks and hazards. In 2017, we dealt with about 400, and that is about 4 times more.
But the forecast for the impact on future generations is most worrying.
The worst case estimates are that throughout this century, as many as 2 billion people could be driven from coastal cities and communities toward the interior of the continents on which they live.
As glaciers melt, adding hundreds of billions of tons of water into the sea each year, sea levels are rising, and extreme heat and drought, floods and poverty are becoming more prevalent. The scientific community's message is clear. Unless the world unites to take dramatic action immediately, it may be too little too late for future generations to fix the damage. Randolph Nogel, The Newsmakers.